So, excuse any background noise. I wanted to share. So, Ivan Heals on Instagram says, a man without connection to his feminine becomes numb. But a man without connection... Ivan Heals is Ivanheals. But a man without connection to his masculine becomes lost. The masculine creates a container, the feminine benefits it, and the feminine fills it with life. You need both. The goal was never to kill the masculine. It was to make it safe enough for the feminine to emerge. And because the deepest masculine presence doesn't suppress emotion, it leads it. Just like the ocean, the feminine was never meant to be controlled, only held. Structure without feeling becomes control, and feeling without structure becomes chaos. And the healthiest feminine expression doesn't resist structure, it trusts it. Shane Kohler says, a powerful woman calls a man into service. She challenges them to acknowledge his needs for love and connection and pursue her for them. When she's released, her desperation is when she releases her desperation, she's no longer enabling his isolation and aloofness. He's forced to face his true desires. This is healing for both as he becomes attuned to his heart and sensitivity while creating a safe space for consistency and presence for her. I want to share how I was doing some internal work about silence, and I was realizing that I had been triggered by silence for a long time because in my childhood I would get locked out, cut out, shut down, locked in my room, locked in the bathroom, locked outside, locked in the hallway. Just there was nothing to do to get in. Sometimes my mother wanted an apology, sometimes my father wanted me to go to the storefront. It was just like ways to earn back my right to be inside and to be let in. So I was thinking about why it was so painful. It's because the angel of silence is Duma from Gehenna, the grave and death. And I thought about how the dead can't speak and the living can speak. So we have to use our voices for good and for that. Or the echo of the unspoken could haunt us. The words we did not say of encouragement, of gratitude, positivity, honesty, peace and love, trust, affirmation, reassurance and support. And then I wanted to share about the responsibility we have for bonding. Like they always say, play responsibly when you gamble, drink responsibly when you have alcohol, consume responsibly, right? So what is responsible bonding? When everything has effects. When we learn to relate, we learn to communicate under pressure. We learn to do the right thing even privately. And these are very Jewish ideas, or at least Hasidic ideas. We learn to value what's precious. In other words, you wouldn't harm something that's precious. So the bond itself is precious. You learn to see the preciousness. And learning to do the right thing even privately could mean just between you and the other person when you feel private with them. Some people, they act one way when they're with certain people and different with others. But if you do the right thing even privately, it doesn't matter who you're with. Also, you learn to make reciprocal efforts. You learn to value reciprocity. It's very challenging when you make efforts in, let's say, your job, and they don't make efforts to make sure you're comfortable. Bonding itself, whether it's friends, family, or even with your coworkers or anywhere, is you have to be responsible. Everything has effects. We learn even in the law of physics that everything has equal or greater reaction. Also, we learn that control is weakness. There's a lot of psychological understanding and also study that shows that people who have the least level of need for control, in other words, they are willing to go with the flow and be flexible, are actually the most resilient and the most bouncing back and actually have the most power in the system. Because everything depends on their ability to move. If both people have 100% control, then nothing can move because this is the edge and this is the edge. Also, needing someone to be attached is very desperate because you want and pathetic because you want the other person to be desperate and pathetic. When you're attached and you don't get what you want, you become pathetic and desperate. So if they need someone to be attached to them, they are the one who's desperate and pathetic. You also learn how to sacrifice. It's a lot like compromise, but compromise means two people's wills are making space for each other. Sacrifice is to come close. In Latin, we know the word sacrifice means to make sacrifice, to make close. So a sacrifice brings you closer. If you have something coming between you and the relationship, the bond, like for example, you want that 2 extra minutes of sleep. You might sacrifice 2 extra minutes of sleep because the bond is important. Also, learning to apologize. That's something that maybe as a child we didn't do it sincerely, and maybe as an adult we think, why should I have to? It's ego. It's saying I did something wrong. Maybe as a child the person got punished. But we learned that it's actually a maturity. It's how to bond responsibly, to be responsible for the other person needing to hear the apology. That they matter, even if you don't think that you did anything wrong. When you step on someone's foot, you say sorry. You don't say, if I stepped on your foot. You did, you stepped on their foot. Also, we learn nothing's as it seems on the surface. A person has their own private world, and bonding does not entitle you to think you know everything that's going on inside. The surface bonding, often, let's say, when I look at my parents, is not what it actually was. It's what I think it was. Also, we will do anything for meaning, depth, and connection, because that's what the bond is supposed to bring us. If it's an empty bond, it hurts. When you open yourself up and nothing comes in and it just makes you feel like life is meaningless and you're disconnected, that's the opposite of what the bond is supposed to be there for. Some bonds do return you to the inner depth and meaning and connection, but to bond with someone is to be sharing meaning, depth, and connection. Also, you see, anything worth having is worth sharing with our loved ones. What's the point of having so much and you think it's all for you? If you enjoy it, you know the other person would enjoy it. If it's worthy to have, it's worthy to share, for someone else to have too. That is what actually brings fulfillment for an adult. If you're still walking around with your inner child, which I'm not sure if I am anymore, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, remnants, residue, memories. Also, we learn to surrender for the sake of peace and love, for the sake of peace, for the sake of love, because sometimes that means I give in, not because I'm weaker, but because I want there to be peace for us. So if this really matters to you, or if I want you to feel that you have some agency in this relationship, or I want it to be that you feel like you matter, I'll surrender. Surrender to love, surrender to peace, because if it only has to be on my terms, that's not real peace, that's not real love. And also, of course, learning to compromise and humble the self and accommodate the will of the other. That's more about, like, let's say my will and your will. So let's say I want to go there and you want to go there. So we find maybe we could do what I wanted to do over there with you in your place, or maybe the vice versa. Also learning accountability. This is mature reflectiveness, because you look and see where you're coming from, your intentions, what you're interested in, what you want out of it. You make accounts. You make accounts of the things you did wrong. You start to see, if I'm always 10 minutes late and you're always early, maybe I could take account for my side. Then, of course, to be zealous, and that's so that the other person is not waiting, so that we don't think we always have tomorrow. We really don't with bonding, because at any moment a bond could be ripped, not because we wanted to end it or they wanted to end it, but because something bad happened, chas v'shalom, and they have, God forbid, and they have to go somewhere to take care of it, or because they're no longer in the physical world. We want to give away unconditional love for its own sake, which means that a person is able to just want there to be unconditional love living everywhere. We could just have love, light, acceptance, validation without someone having to earn it or perform or bargain for it. Rather, we want to give it away for its own sake, because then there's more unconditional love in the world, and you trust that it's something like an infection that goes into everybody and everything, and then then propagates itself like a good infection. And kind of like what I said about surrendering for the sake of love, letting love come through you is like the flower letting the good smell come through it. It's enjoyable for everybody. So somebody who's so scared of love, eventually the love will win anyway. You might have to win with somebody else, where you learn the hard way that love was what really mattered, God forbid. Everyone should learn the easy way. So we can learn with pleasure and love, or with pain and lack, but we do have to learn the lesson eventually. It's Hashem gives, especially gives man free choice on how to use agency, and lets the man choose. Because the woman, I believe, in general, before maybe a woman is traumatized or thinks she has to be like a man, a woman by nature would want to receive the love, because then she could give you more love. So by nature, women are the ones who are said to be clingy, but maybe a man, maybe who's looking for a love from a woman that he didn't get before, might become clingy because he learned the lesson. It's better to be clingy than to act aloof. So Hashem gives a man a free choice, and we could even say it includes man and woman. Hashem gives man free choice how to use agency, and lets the man choose if he wants to be like Hashem, which would be benevolent, charitable, generous, attentive, building with chesed. Actually, chesed means loving kindness and just really expansion, like sweetness. Actually, a man depends on woman more than she depends on him, because it's his privilege to get a healthy identity and true confidence from how he treats other people and his ability to provide and protect those willing to let him. So her ability to let him be somebody, to be something. She could be on her own and be able to take care of the children and take care of everything, right? She could, because she has to do all that. She has to be generous, benevolent, charitable, attentive to the child. However, letting a man take care of her is what fills her cup. She could then pour out into the kids. But the thing is that if he's willing to be seen by her as a provider and protector, that does 10 million times more than him buying another watch or driving past, strangers in his new car. Also, there's something very important about becoming a beginner, which means you're willing to grow rather than be a dictator who wants to have authority. If you think you know everything, you're not bonding responsibly, because you are not willing to learn, and you're not willing to let the bond be enhanced to what it can be. Being a beginner means I'm willing to learn about love today. I'm willing to let love be infinite and bonding be infinite, and I'm willing to find a new language with us and a new way of being together. Also, we learn to train our ego and follow our Yetzer Tov and Kavanat Tovot. Kavanat Tovot means good intentions, and so or good devotions, good intentions, really, good concentrations, good focus. So when we train our ego, we realize that maybe we thought that we want to fill the void with short-term power, being the one who looks a certain way, but that's really a false identity, thinking that we'll exist only if someone else is seeing us. But if on the inside we want to feel good, we want to fill up with love and goodwill, so Yetzer Tov is the goodwill, and Kavanah Tovot is good intention. So we want to have good intentions, we want to have goodwill, and we want to train the ego. So when the ego thinks that it's going to win by doing harm, it's never doing harm to someone else. The person doing the harm is actually being harmed. And then we have, finally but not least, we follow Hashem's will for us. And because we actually don't know everything, and when we think we know everything, I or you, we end up missing out on a lot of what we're actually supposed to be doing, because what the potential is actually for both us and the person we're bonding with. The potential for that relationship. I once heard it said that a potential for a relationship could be, up till the size of a milk carton, or it could be up till the size of an elevator, or it could be up to not an elevator, a car. Maybe I was thinking elevator. Well, not a car, like an enclosed room, like just a small room. A car, then it could be up to the size of a small room. Then it could be an elevator that takes you then it could be up to the roof, the ceiling. Then it could be up to the roof. Then it could be the elevator, which takes you up many, many floors in a skyscraper. And then it could be infinite with no ceiling, no roof. So the potential is for both people, if bonding responsibly in this way, not rushing, but slowly but surely doing this. And because it's precious, we don't risk it, and we can let it be an infinite capacity. Okay, all the best. Bye.